You know that very specific, that really visceral feeling of dread when you're staring at a high school course selection sheet?
Oh, I know it.
It doesn't look like a menu of, exciting learning opportunities. It looks like a minefield.
Oh, absolutely. It's like high-stakes Tetris. You've got these empty slots, and you feel like if you put the wrong block in the wrong place, the whole game is over.
Exactly. You're holding the pen or, hovering the mouse, and you're just paralyzed. You're thinking, okay, if I don't take AP European history, am I going to look lazy?
Right.
But if I do take it and I get a C because that teacher's a nightmare, did I just torch my GPA and ruin my entire life? It feels like one wrong check mark sends you straight to the reject pile.
With the paralyzing loop. And honestly, the worst part is that the advice you get is usually like totally contradictory. Your
Totally.
guidance counselor says one thing, your neighbor whose kid got into Yale says another, and then if you go on Reddit, forget it. It's just a dumpster fire of anxiety.
Yeah. Which is exactly why we're doing this. Today's deep dive is, well, it's basically a masterclass on the high school transcript.
Mhm.
But we aren't just talking about getting in. We're looking at how to craft a narrative, how to avoid burnout, which is a huge issue, and, my favorite part, how to potentially get the whole thing paid for.
And we've got a really interesting stack of sources today. We're pulling some high-level strategy from Julie Kim. She's a Harvard grad and a consultant, runs Conquer College admissions.
Okay.
Then we have the hard academic baseline data from Khan Academy to kind of keep us grounded.
Reality check.
Exactly. And then for the money side, we are dissecting the Florida Bright Futures Scholarship Program, which, by the way, has lessons for everyone, not just people in Florida.
It's the trifecta: admissions, academics, and affordability. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of, whether you really need to take physics, you found something in the research that honestly just flips the script on the last 20 years of advice.
I did. And if you take nothing else away from this deep dive, take this. We need to kill the myth of the well-rounded student.
Whoa, hang on. Well-rounded is the holy grail. I mean, that's the standard advice.
I know.
You play the oboe, you're captain of the soccer team, you volunteer at the animal shelter, and you get straight A's. You're saying that's wrong.
According to modern admissions logic and Julie Kim's strategy, it's not just wrong, it's a trap. The highly selective schools, the Ivies, Stanford, the top tiers, they are not looking for a well-rounded student.
Okay.
They're looking to build a well-rounded class.
Okay, that sounds a little like semantics. What's the actual difference between a well-rounded student and a well-rounded class?
Think about it like you're putting together a team for a heist movie, like Ocean's 11.
Okay, I'm listening. I love a good heist analogy.
You don't want 5 people who are, like, pretty good at driving, kind of okay at hacking, and decent at cracking safes.
Right. No, the heist fails.
The heist fails. You want one world-class driver, one expert hacker, one explosive specialist.
Right, because you need someone who can handle that one specific high-pressure situation.
Precisely. Admissions officers are casting a movie.
Uh,
If you're the student who does a little bit of everything, the jack of all trades, you just blend in. You're generic. They want the pointy student.
Pointy. I like that. That's a great visual.
Yeah. Someone with a giant spike in one specific area. Julie Kim calls this having a theme.
A theme.
The mistake students make is trying to check every single box. Journalism, AP Physics, debate, varsity swimming, just to look busy. But if those things don't connect, you don't look versatile. You just look confused.
You look like you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. But I have to play devil's advocate here because this brings up a massive fear for parents and for students.
For sure.
Specializing sounds really dangerous. What if I'm like 15 years old? I decide my theme is engineering. I go all in. And then at 17, I realize I hate math.
Yeah.
Haven't I painted myself into a corner?
That is such a valid fear. But the theme isn't a life sentence. It's more of a narrative device for the application. It's about how you frame your interests right now.
Okay.
And the formula for building it is actually pretty flexible.
Let's hear the formula. How do we manufacture a theme if we don't feel pointy?
So a theme equals your academic interest plus your personal interest plus your superpower, your values or your strengths.
Okay, let's test this because usually those things don't fit together neatly. Let's say I'm a student. My academic interest is biology, but my personal interest is, I don't know, baseball.
Okay.
And my strength or superpower is that I'm really good at crunching numbers. In the old model, I just play baseball and take bio and then be totally separate.
Right. And on a transcript, they would look completely disconnected. But in the theme model, you combine them. biology plus baseball plus data analysis.
Uh,
Suddenly, you aren't just a baseball player who takes Bion A. You are interested in kinesiology. You're looking at sabermetrics and sports medicine.
okay, I see where you're going with this. You're weaving a thread through all the different parts of your life.
Exactly. You use that data strength to do a passion project, analyzing pitching mechanics to prevent elbow injuries. Now, when an admissions officer picks up your file, they don't say, here's a kid who does stuff. They say, oh, here's the sports data kid. You're memorable.
That is so much more compelling. And honestly, it actually sounds like less work than trying to be president of the chess club just because you think you have to.
That is the beauty of it. It's an efficiency hack. Once you have a theme, it acts as a filter for your course selection.
Right.
If your theme is sports data, does taking AP art history serve your narrative?
Probably not. Not unless I'm analyzing brushstrokes with data, but that's a bit of a stretch.
Exactly, so you can guilt-free skip it.
Mm-hmm.
But taking AP statistics...
That becomes non-negotiable. That supports the spike.
Right. Julie Kim emphasizes that if you don't know what your theme is, the admissions officer certainly won't know either. I mean, they scan these applications in minutes, sometimes seconds. And if they see a transcript that's just all over the place, they don't interpret it as versatility. They interpret it as a lack of focus.
So if my theme is humanities, I love writing, I love history, and I'm stressing out about taking AP physics because it looks good on a transcript or my mom thinks I need it.
You should absolutely calm down.
Yeah.
If AP Physics is going to lower your GPA and it has nothing to do with your humanities theme, the strategic move is to not take it. You don't need to be a hero in a subject that isn't your story.
That is a massive relief. I feel like shoulders are dropping all across our audience right now. But, okay, we can't just skip everything hard, right? We still have to eat our vegetables. We can't just take basket weaving because it fits our chill theme.
No, absolutely not. There's a floor. Khan Academy provides a really solid baseline here. Even if you have a niche theme, there are some non-negotiables if you want to be competitive. You still need the core menu.
Let's run down the list. What are the meat and potatoes that every student needs, regardless of their spike?
Let's start with math. This is usually the biggest stressor. The data suggests colleges really want to see 4 years of math.
And is there a gold standard here? Because I hear parents talking about calculus like it's the only way to get into college.
They're not entirely wrong. Khan Academy is pretty explicit about this. Calculus is often viewed as the gold standard of pre-college prep. It just signals readiness. Even if you aren't a STEM major, getting to calculus shows a level of rigor and logic that admissions officers really respect.
So if you can get to calc, you should do it. But what if you stop at pre-calc? Is that a death sentence? I mean, what if you just aren't a math kid?
It's not a death sentence, no, especially for a non-STEM major. But if you're aiming for the Ivy League, not having calc is a bit of a hole in the armor. It's about being competitive relative to that well-rounded class we talked about.
Oh, right.
If the humanities kid next to you has calculus and you don't, they might just edge you out.
Okay, that's a tough pill to swallow, but it's good to know. What about English?
Non-negotiable 4 years. I mean, reading and writing are the backbone of almost every single college degree. You cannot skimp there.
Science and history.
Science, ideally 4 years, but 3 is the minimum. Biology, chemistry, physics usually covers it. History is usually 3 years. U.S. history, government, world history.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for me. Foreign language. I feel like a lot of students treat this like a tasting menu.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do a year of Spanish, get bored, then maybe try a year of French.
That is a classic strategic error. The sources are very clear. Colleges prefer deep mastery over variety.
Why is that? I would have thought knowing a little bit of 2 languages shows curiosity.
It shows a lack of commitment. 2 to 4 years of the same language is far better than dabbling. They want to see that you can stick with something when it gets hard, like when you hit the subjunctive tense and it stops being fun. That shows grit.
So don't tasting menu your languages. Got it. Stick with it. What about the arts?
Unless it's your theme, 1 or 2 semesters is usually enough to show you're a human being with some creative interests.
Okay, so we have our theme, our spike, and we have our core menu. Now we run into the biggest conflict of high school existence, the rigor trap.
This is the, should I take the AP class even if I might get a C question?
Exactly, because we're told, challenge yourself. We're told colleges want to see the most rigorous schedule available, but Julie Kim drops a pretty hard truth in her training about this.
She does. Her verdict is essentially, no, do not overload your schedule to the point of mediocrity.
Mediocrity. Oof. That stings.
It sounds harsh, but the data backs it up. GPA is, arguably the single most important factor for top-tier admissions.
Right.
If you take 5 AP classes to look impressive, but you get 3 Bs and 2 Cs,
Yeah.
you've actually hurt your application more than if you had taken fewer APs and kept your As.
Because you've tanked your GPA. And once that GPA drops, it is so hard to pull it back up.
Exactly. And there's another layer to this, the opportunity cost. This connects right back to the theme. If you are drowning in coursework for a class that doesn't align with your theme.
That AP physics class for the humanities students.
Exactly. You are losing time.
Time that could be spent on what? Sleeping?
Well, sleep is important, but specifically, time for passion projects, research, essays, the things that actually make your quainty narrative real. If you're studying until 2 a.m. for a class you don't care about, you aren't writing the screenplay that explains who you are. You aren't doing the internship. You're just surviving.
That makes so much sense. It's about resource management. Your energy is a finite resource. You can't spend it all on things that don't advance your narrative.
Precisely. And Julie Kim suggests a research strategy here that I think is brilliant. You need to investigate the specific context of your high school.
You mean the teacher factor?
Yes. A class isn't just a curriculum, it's a person teaching it. Taking AP US History in Los Angeles might be totally different than taking it in New Jersey, simply because of the teacher. If the teacher at your school is notorious for giving impossible workloads and barely anyone gets an A,
And you're a pre-med student whose theme is biology?
then taking that specific AP History class might be a strategic failure. It's just not worth the damage to your GPA and your mental bandwidth.
You have to play the game on the field you're on? Ask the upperclassmen. Find out who the GPA killers are.
Exactly. But, and there's always a but, we can't just coast. If you're aiming for top tier, you do need to show rigor. Julie Kim notes that schools often count the number of APs or honors courses.
So you can't just opt out.
You can't opt out of rigor entirely. It's about targeted rigor. Take the hard classes that align with your theme and your strengths.
Be the spiky student, not the flat one.
Okay, so we've strategized how to get in. We've built the transcript. Now I want to pivot to something equally important, maybe even more important for the parents listening, paying for it.
This is where we look at the Florida Bright Futures Scholarship.
Now, before the listeners who aren't in Florida tune out, why does this matter to them? Because the logic of Bright Futures is the logic of merit aid all across the country. Whether it's the Hopi Pave Scholarship in Georgia or merit scholarships from specific universities, they almost all operate on this kind of gamified system. Florida is just the perfect case study.
And we're talking about significant money here. The source material had some incredible testimonials.
Yes, we heard from students like Lily Osborne and Jennifer Hollander, and they use phrases like 100% of tuition paid for and zero student debt.
Zero student debt. I mean, in this economy, that is basically a superpower. It's like starting a race halfway to the finish line.
It changes your life trajectory. You can buy a house sooner, you can take a job you love instead of one that just pays the bills.
Absolutely.
And what's so fascinating about Bright Futures is that it's not subjective. It's not an essay contest where a judge decides if they like your sob story.
Yeah.
It is pure gamification.
It's a checklist. If you check the boxes, you get the money.
It is. So let's look at the top tier, the Florida Academic Scholarship, or FAS.
What are the stats? What do we need to hit?
You need a 3.5 weighted GPA. You need 16 core credits, which aligns perfectly with that Khan Academy menu we just talked about.
Right.
You need minimum test scores on the ACT or SAT, currently a 29 on the ACT or 1330 on the SAT. And this is the big one. You need service hours.
This is where people get tripped up. How many hours?
The top tier, it's 100 volunteer service hours.
Yeah.
But, and this is a recent and very important update in the source material, it can also be 100 paid work hours.
Oh, that is huge. Because for a long time, the criticism of these volunteer requirements was that they favored wealthy kids.
Exactly.
If you have to work at McDonald's to help your family pay rent, you don't have time to volunteer at the library for free.
Exactly. It was a barrier. Now, if you work a part-time job, those hours count towards your scholarship.
Wow.
It levels the playing field significantly.
Wow.
If you're flipping burgers, you are earning a paycheck and earning your tuition scholarship at the same time.
That is a massive shift. So that's the FAS, the top tier. What if you miss the SAT score by a few points? Do you just get nothing?
No, there's a safety net. That's the Florida Medallion Scholarship, or FMS. The GPA requirement drops to a 3.0 weighted, and the service hours drop to 75.
Okay.
It covers less tuition, usually around 75% of the cost, but that is still a massive savings.
And there are options for trade schools too, right? We shouldn't assume everyone is going to a four-year university.
Yes, the Gold Seal KP and vocational scholarships.
Yeah.
This is so important. College isn't the only path, and the state funds technical training too. If you want to be a welder or an electrician, there is money on the table for that.
The key insight here for me was just how administrative it all is. You mentioned deadlines.
Yes, this is where the strategic student has to be an organized student.
Mm.
You can have the grades, you can have the hours, but if you don't submit the test scores by August 31st of your graduation year, or if you don't fill out the application, you get nothing.
It vanishes.
It vanishes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about being smart, it's about being compliant. And honestly, that trips up more brilliant kids than you would expect. They think, oh, the school knows my grades. The school doesn't do it for you. You have to claim the money.
So bring this all back together. We're moving from the anxiety of, did I pick the right class, to a place of real strategy. It feels like we're trying to replace panic with a plan.
It really just comes down to one word: intentionality.
Intentionality.
Whether it's Julie Kim talking about building a theme to stand out to the Ivy League, or Khan Academy listing the core subjects to ensure baseline competence, or Bright Futures requiring specific hours, the successful student isn't the one doing the most.
Right.
It's the one doing things on purpose.
I really like that distinction. So instead of panic choosing AP Physics just because your best friend is doing it, you stop and you ask, does this fit my theme? Does this protect my GPA? Does this help me hit my scholarship requirements?
Exactly. You're building a narrative, not just a list. You're curating your own high school experience rather than just, surviving it.
Yeah. It takes the pressure off being perfect and puts the focus on being distinct.
And honestly, that's a skill that serves you way beyond high school. Being able to look at a complex system, identify your strengths, and navigate a path that works for you. I mean, that's basically adulthood.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a challenge, a way to sort of audit your own transcript or your child's right now.
Right. I want you to imagine an admissions officer picks up your transcript. They cover up your name. They don't know who you are. They just look at the list of classes you've taken and the grades you've received.
The blind transcript test.
If they looked at that paper, would they be able to tell you what your theme is? Would they say, oh, this student is clearly interested in engineering, or this student is a future writer?
Or would they just see a random assortment of hard classes?
Here's a kid who took a lot of APs.
Exactly.
If they can't name your theme just by looking at your choices, it might be time to rethink your strategy for next semester.
Be pointy, not well-rounded.
Be point.
I love it. Thanks for diving in with us today. Hopefully that course selection sheet looks a little less scary now.
Happy planning.